Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. We have a lot to discuss today because there's a lot going on. As a matter of fact, there's so much going on that I had a hard time trying to distill this to something that can be discussed over a relatively short period of time. One of the things that I think is very important is that the Trump administration has been working diligently in Iraq, in Iran, and the general Middle East to accomplish something, an atmosphere that is a prerequisite and necessary in order for the Iraqi dinar to reinstitute, and that's security and stability. This is a term we hear a lot, and the last few weeks has brought us to what, in my opinion, is the security and stability, the prerequisite necessary for the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. Now, of course, the problem has been Iran. Iran's been the problem for as long as we have been patiently waiting for our investment in the Iraqi dinar to reinstitute and revalue globally. It has to do with religious and political issues that, from our perspective, we have nothing whatsoever to do with, except for the fact that they're an obstacle to our trip to the bank to exchange our currencies. But the Trump administration, for a number of reasons, has put their foot down and is dealing with Iraq. If you've been paying attention, the first thing the Trump administration did was destroy Iran's nuclear program, because that was the cloak and the threat that it used in order to underwrite all of its other rather nefarious activities in the Middle East. But once the nuclear program had been neutralized, then the Trump administration proceeded to destroy their Navy, their Air Force, and virtually 90% of their drone program. That was critical not only for Iraq and our expectations for Iraq, but for other nations in the Middle East, some that were sympathetic to Iran, who sided with Iraq and the United States and the world community, that finally came to the conclusion that Iran had to be dealt with once and for all. Now, in the nation of Iraq, there were issues that had to be dealt with too, and this had to do with pro-Iranian officials within the country of Iraq that posed an obstacle to Iraq advancing as a sovereign, wealthy, individual nation, not in any way linked to Iran. So to that end, Donald Trump has been working behind the scenes to sort of clean up the problems in Iraq as well. For example, Maliki, the pro-Iranian prime minister, is gone. Their parliament, the coalition framework, had a rather large faction of pro-Iranian officials that have been neutralized. And in their place are individuals that are going to be working diligently to proceed with the monetary reform in Iraq, which necessarily includes the reinstitution and revaluation of their currency. The Prime Minister of Iraq, Ali al-Zaidi, is a banker, has degrees in banking and finance. The governor of the CBI, another pro-Iranian official, Ali Laq, is on his way out, being replaced by al-Habousi, who also has degrees in these areas which are critical to the completion of the monetary reform. You need leaders in critical positions that are knowledgeable about the things that need to be done for the reinstitution and revaluation of their currency. So those of us that have dinar, particularly those of us that had it for some length of time, have been paying very close attention to what's going on. Now, the Speaker of Parliament says that the passage of the HCL is progressing. It includes dozens of laws that are going to be very helpful with regard, once again, to the completion of their monetary policy. He has also stated that there will be no postponement of the passage of the HCL. Now, for retrospect, they've been trying to pass the HCL since 2003. That's how utterly convoluted the system has been. But the log jam is finally over. And so, taking all of this information in, given what the Trump administration's doing, and if you've been observing how Donald Trump operates, he likes to pick certain dates to get things done because he looks at things from a historical standpoint too. So, taking in everything that I've discussed here, I think what we're looking at is the reinstitution and revaluation of the Iraqi dinar just prior to July 4th of this year. Now, why July 4th? Well, of course, it's the birth date of the United States. It also happens to be the 250th anniversary of the United States, and it's about 35 days from now, which is a comfortable glide path, again, to dot the I's and cross all of the T's, the things that finally need to get done. So it's as though we've been looking at all of this with a blur, and all of a sudden, everything's coming into focus and coming in sharply. So those of us that have currencies, whether you've had them for a year, 5 years, or some people over 20 years, I think your long wait is just about over, because whether it's in the United States, which is critical, or whether it's in the people that are now in critical positions in Iraq, I think we have the right people in place. I think they know what needs to be done. I think they're all in agreement about what needs to be done. And so, to state it again, I really think that by July 4th of this year, the Iraqi dinar will hit the 4X, and then our calls will be dealing with some very different and, in my opinion, much more interesting subject matter. So let's talk a little bit about that subject matter. Is the Iraqi dinar going to reinstitute at $1? I think that makes the most sense because it's going to increase in value, not only because the dollar is substantially less than what the Iraqi dinar should be worth, but also because when the Iraqi dinar hits the 4X, a lot of people that did not have the dinar or purchase it at a program rate, particularly currency speculators, I think are going to be purchasing it in large sums. That, coupled with the central banks around the world that will be substantially loading up on the Iraqi dinar. And let me digress for a second. I think that the Vietnamese dong is coming along right behind it. And there are some other currencies we can look at too. So I think there's going to be a lot of velocity. There's going to be a lot of activity, even if the Iraqi dinar comes out at $1. I personally think that even if it comes out at $1, it will not stay there for very long. $3.22 is what the Iraqi dinar was worth when it went into a program rate. So if the Iraqi dinar, well, certainly in my opinion, the Iraqi dinar will hit $3.22. The country's been resurrected. We've had over 20 years of inflation, so $3.22 seems like a rather conservative number. I have talked to some currency speculators who, in their opinion, say that the floor for the Iraqi dinar, in their opinion, based on Basel IV compliance, is about $4.85. So I'm going to just do the math here. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but given everything that we know, it's certainly something that's possible. But imagine purchasing 1 million Iraqi dinar for $1,000. And if the Iraqi dinar were to hit $4.85, which is not beyond the realm of possibility, you're looking at $4.85 million on a $1,000 investment. I know that sounds absolutely absurd. I'm uncomfortable even saying it, but this is the math. This is what we're looking at. Iraq is a very unusual situation. Iraq arguably is the richest country in the world per square mile. It's situated in the Tigris-Euphrates River Delta, where the silt traveled down into Iraq for eons. That means the natural resources, the rare earth metals, all of that have just been languishing there for centuries. We come along, we purchase the currency of that country. When it happens to be in a program rate, the country is resurrected. We have gone through something called Basel compliance as well. What's that? Well, for over 100 years, central banks made determinations about what their currency was worth relative to other currencies. But then something came along called Basel compliance, meaning currencies were no longer going to be valued based on the opinions of the relative central banks, but were going to be based on the known natural resources of a given country and the ability of that country to bring those resources to market. And once again, it can be argued that per square mile, Iraq may well be the richest, certainly one of the richest, but maybe the richest country in the world. So we are poised, for those of us that have purchased the Iraqi dinar, we are poised in the very near future to have some very difficult decisions to make about how to invest the windfall we're about to receive. There are issues you're going to have to deal with, and they're going to be stressful. Taxes, the potential of litigation. Individuals that become very wealthy over time have friends and they have enemies. And people that are aware of the wealth that you've accumulated are unfortunately going to want to take some of it from you. These are things you have to deal with. Then there are, of course, all of the investment decisions you have to make. The general rule is the more money you have, the less risk you need to take. But I've learned over the years that the vast majority of individuals that hold Iraqi dinar are not sophisticated, wealthy investors. They're average American citizens who have full-time jobs, and they've never had to manage a substantial amount of money, certainly in the volumes that we're talking about right now. So Trusts Unlimited decided that they were going to try to help these individuals. The reason we made this decision is because we at Trusts Unlimited, those that work with Trusts Unlimited, happen to get involved with the purchase of the Iraqi dinar as well. And being estate planners, we realized that there were going to be estate planning issues, there were going to be tax issues, there were going to be litigation issues, and there were going to be investment issues. And one of the ways we can help is by providing a protective trust that can assist you post-RV with these assets. However, you're going to need to do a couple of things. First, you're going to need to establish your asset protection trust package prior to the event, meaning prior to the reinstitution, revaluation of the dinar and some of these other currencies. And the other thing you were going to need to do was assign these currencies to the trust. Now, there are some very important reasons why this needs to be done. So let's assume you are that individual. You're a hardworking, middle-class individual. You've had some luck investing, but nothing really dramatic in your life. But you've worked much of your life, and you've been able to squirrel away some money. But now you stumble across the Iraqi dinar, and you think to yourself, well, this overnight wealth and all of that, it's just hype. It's never going to happen. Well, actually, it will happen. It won't happen in the time frame that you may have thought or hoped it would happen, but when it happens, it will be overnight, meaning that one day you will be holding dinar, whether it's 1 million or 5 million or 10 million and even more, and the next day you're going to be worth more money than you thought possible. And this is real. This is going to occur. We've watched it. We've seen the progress, and we've seen over the last 30 days, and particularly over the last couple of weeks, this thing really gaining speed. So you've got a decision to make. Are you going to protect that wealth for yourself and your family, or are you just going to go to the bank and do the exchange and pay whatever taxes they tell you to pay and let everyone on planet Earth know you're now a very wealthy individual? Or are you going to play a little closer to the vest and protect that wealth, reduce your taxes, eliminate the risks of litigation, and provide for yourself and your family and your heirs? Well, let's assume you decide to call Trusts Unlimited and say, you know what, let me take a look at your trust package. I'd like your initial informational package because I hold dinar and some other currencies, and I'm of the opinion now they are going to reinstitute and revalue for a substantial amount. And it might be a good idea to see the type of protection I ought to consider. Well, I'm going to provide that for you right now. Now, there are other entities that you can create to provide some level of privacy and protection. LLCs, sub-S corporations, limited family partnerships, and the like. But none of them, I repeat, none of them will provide the benefits of an asset protection trust package. Our particular trust package was written by our attorney, Robert Bly. He's a well-known estate planner and author, been in business for over 50 years. He put together a trust package. I had worked with Bob in the past. I had become a dinarian. I discussed this with Bob and learned that he had established a trust package for dinarians. I looked at the package. Without a doubt, it was the best trust package that I'd seen, and it incorporated things particularly or peculiar to those of us that have purchased dinar and, again, some of these other currencies. So I established this package for myself, and as it turned out, I now represent Bob Bly and Trusts Unlimited by marketing this trust package to dinarians because as an investment advisor and as a dinarian and as an estate planner, all the pieces fit perfectly together. Now, what benefits does this trust package provide to you as a dinarian that you do not possess without this package? First, privacy and anonymity. Because by establishing this trust package pre-RV, in addition to protecting your privacy and your anonymity, it will make it extremely difficult, if not impossible, for anyone to successfully sue you. And remember, most lawsuits are frivolous in nature. Frivolous lawsuits cannot possibly succeed. The second benefit is this trust will allow you to avoid IRS scrutiny, because by establishing this trust package, you're going to avoid the possibility of an IRS audit. Why? because you don't own the currencies. They're owned by the trust. And any such trust audit would necessarily be confined to the year of the RV. In other words, you purchase currency, you establish our trust, you place those currencies in trust. There is no involvement with the IRS. These currencies reinstitute. You, as the beneficiary of the trust, receive the benefit of that revaluation. But you don't own those currencies. The trust owns those currencies. And the IRS is much less likely to audit a sophisticated trust than they are an individual who earned $60,000 last year and $14.7 million the following year. That's not going to happen because that profit from the revaluation will occur within the trust, not to you personally. The third benefit is it allows you to avoid gift taxes with pre-RV gifting. By gifting pre-RV currencies to friends and family through the trust, you will avoid the federal gift tax and retain complete control of the post-RV proceeds if you wish. As an example, the RV happens, you give someone $1 million. You're going to have to pay a gift tax on that gift. However, if you've established our trust and then you gift individuals some of these pre-RV currencies, even though the post-RV value will be substantial, the pre-RV gift will be so insignificant that there will be no gift tax. So not only will you be able to personally avoid any tax on the gift, the special gift subtrust within our package will allow you, if you wish or if you feel you need to have control of the post-RV proceeds for the benefit of these individuals. Now, there are situations where you're going to gift to individuals that you have no problem managing the money for themselves. They may be sophisticated investors. They may be very responsible individuals. But if you have individuals that you feel are either unable or unwilling to manage a substantial sum, or if you're gifting to minor children, then you can gift currencies to them through this gift subtrust, and you will be able to manage that money for their benefit. Another benefit of this package is it will allow you to avoid probate and the federal estate tax when you pass away. This trust, again, will allow you to bypass the cost and delay of probate, making any inheritance privately and immediately available to your heirs. It will also allow you to avoid the federal estate tax, which can be as high as 55%. Now, what do I mean by this? If you have this wealth that you've accumulated through this revaluation and you have not established a trust, when you pass that on to your heirs, they're going to have to pay the federal estate tax, which can be as high as 55%. The tax that's assessed for you to transfer your estate to your heirs. However, if these assets are in our trust, you will avoid the federal estate tax, and your heirs will receive 100 cents on a dollar of your estate. Why? Because, once again, your estate, inclusive of the money that you earn from the revaluation of these currencies, is in trust. When you pass away, your named beneficiaries will receive the benefits of the trust. There will be no probate and there will be no federal estate tax because there is no transfer of ownership. The assets are still owned by the trust. The only thing that's changed are who the beneficiaries are. So once again, not only will everything transfer immediately and privately to your heirs, but they will receive 100 cents on a dollar. And the last benefit is preemptive asset protection, because by placing your pre-RV currencies in trust, only the value of those currencies at the time of the transfer would ever be subject to a civil suit. And by placing each individual asset you control in a separate subtrust, you will be able to limit any potential loss. What does this mean? It means you can only be personally sued for the value of the currencies at the time of the transfer. And it means once these currencies have revalued, another way to protect yourself is, and this is why we have a package of trusts, is to place each of your assets, home, cars, boats, in any of the separate subtrusts. So you will have a master trust that will hold financial assets like the currencies, and then you have the U.S. dollar and other financial assets post-RV. But then each other asset you purchase will go into a separate subtrust. This is a legal strategy referred to as segregation of assets. So if you're in a car accident, the only thing that would be involved in the litigation would be the car, because all of your other assets are in separate subtrusts, which under the law are separate legal entities not involved in the litigation in question. So by establishing this trust, you will establish your privacy, your anonymity, you will avoid IRS scrutiny, you'll be able to make tax-free gifts to your family and friends. When you pass away, your estate will avoid probate and the federal estate tax, and you've got preemptive asset protection, which substantially limits, if not completely eliminating, any litigation in the future. Now, these benefits are only available, once again, if you establish an asset protection trust package prior to the reinstitution and revaluation of these currencies. And I'm happy to say that you're running out of time because things are moving quickly in Iraq, and I think they're moving quickly in a few other countries as well that have pre-valued currencies. So now might be a very good time for you to contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. You can contact us by email. If you do so, we will be happy to send you our initial no-obligation package. It does contain everything you need if you wish to proceed, but you're under no obligation to do so. You can review the package, contact us if you have any questions, and if you decide to proceed, once again, everything you need is included in the package. You contact us by email. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited, LLC @gmail.com. That's trusts with an S, unlimited, LLC @gmail.com. Now I'm going to go to the Q&A here, so if any of you have any questions, I'll be happy to do my best to answer those questions. So let me go ahead and go to the Q&A. And while I'm waiting for any questions, again, let me give you our contact information. You can contact us by email. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited, LLC @gmail.com. Our first question here is area code 347. That's 347. Go ahead.
Okay. The CBI governor went on television yesterday with the clean public denial, no change in the exchange rate, foreign reserve strong. The CBI is on his word studying the question. So is there any truth to that, or they're just stalling and all that, or they're just?
The truth to it is he comes on a couple times a week and says the same thing. The issue is what's going on with the monetary reform, not what any particular individual says, particularly someone that's been told by the government explicitly to say such things because they don't want a lot of speculators making the value of the dinar gyrate. So I would frankly be shocked if they weren't saying things like that just prior to the reinstitution of the currency.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Certainly. Our next caller is area code 210. That's 210. Go ahead.
Jim, it's Theodore Wright. I've called you a couple of times on my brother's trust to try to get it changed over to his son's name?
Yeah, I've submitted that request to our attorneys. I had some questions about how that can be accomplished, but hold on one sec. I'm writing this down. I'm going to call the attorney on this right after we get off of this call, and I'm going to call you back later today, okay?
Oh, okay.
Okay, sir. All right. Our next caller is area code 281. That's 281. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim. This is Robert from Texas. Do you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much for all that you do, and thank you for taking my call here. I just have a couple questions.
Sure.
Number one, we've had dinar since 1991. I got some Kuwaiti dinar in 1991 when I was in the military there. And then in 2003, we were back as contractors in Kuwait and Iraq. And, of course, we got more. Here's the situation. I went to the Chase Bank the other day with some of the old lower denomination Kuwaiti notes that I had. I had a quarter note, a 200 note, and a 500 note. And they showed me the notes that are acceptable. And they said that anything prior to 91, and 91 is actually when I was there, they were not accepting. And I didn't understand that because it was money, And what if you had a real old dollar bill, or a $5 bill, or an American dollar bill for that matter, that was really old? Why would that not be accepted? That's my question. That's my first question. You could elaborate a little bit on that.
Okay. Well, of course, if it's an American bank and it's an American dollar that was issued by the United States Treasury, the bank has to accept it. There is an issue with some of the older Iraqi dinar, but most people, and you've been in this a long time. You go back to 91. I mean, we're talking over 30 years here. Most people have currencies that are much later than that, and that won't be an issue at all. But I have heard that Iraqi dinar prior to that date, there could be an issue. I myself don't have any currency that old, and I know very few people that have any of it. At one time it was explained to me what that was, and to be honest with you, I can't remember what that was, but I do recall that there was an issue with some of the. I don't know if it had to do with whether Hussein was on the. I can't remember what it was, but there was an explanation why that was the case. But the vast majority of dinarians, I'd say like 99%. Don't have currencies that are that old, or if they have some of those, they still have some of the more, recent currencies. But I would imagine if I were you, I would investigate some other avenues for those currencies as well. But I might even try another bank. You never know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, those were old Kuwait notes, and we have older and newer 30 Iraqi notes. And when we were there in 2003, we got quite a bit of ours, directly from the exchanges. They have the exchanges in Kuwait, just like drugstores. Malls. Every store, if you would, is an exchange. We got a lot through there. We got some online. So we have a mixture of old and new. The majority of it is new, but I was wondering what kind of problems, if any, we would have when we go to the bank with our notes. And this one particular Chase Bank, they did not have a Delarue machine. They did not. It was all glass, no privacy or anything like that. And I was just wondering.
If there's no Delarue, I don't see how they can do the exchange, because there's no way with the amount of money we're talking about, they're going to make an exchange without verifying the currency.
So
now some banks may want to send it away, and I'm a little uncomfortable with that. I might want to make a few phone calls and make sure that they have a Delarue on site. But without a Delarue, I mean, it can't be done.
Yeah. Well, I've also heard that there's going to be places called BACs, like banking alternative centers, other than banks, but directly with banks. Have you heard about that as well?
Yes, there's supposed to be other exchange centers. I haven't looked too much into that. And until I hear more about it, I'm a little uncomfortable with it. I mean, I'm assuming the federal government's going to set up specific sites to deal solely with this, but how are they going to manage in other words, you walk in with $1 million dinar, what are you going to walk out with that says I have, $3 million US in such and such a bank? I mean, I don't know how that's going to be done, but I've tried getting some information, but until this thing happens, no one really. They either don't know anything or they say, "Oh, it's never going to happen." So we have to wait for the event in order to get more specific information.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, well, thank you for that. And what type of attorneys do you think we, as investors, fairly wealthy investors, after this event happens, what type of attorneys do you think we should have in our circle of influence?
Well, one attorney you would have is our attorney, Robert Bly, who, as I said, he's an author and well-known estate planning attorney. He's also the author of this trust. So you want an attorney that understands the investment, understands how to construct a trust to best protect those that are going to receive a huge windfall, and that's pretty much what we're looking at. So you want to start with attorneys of that nature. Now, I have on occasion, crossed paths with estate planning attorneys who are virtually clueless about, the dinar and those investments. You've got an unusual situation because you have an attorney that's an estate planning specialist who's also invested in the currency, has been involved in it for some length of time, and written books about estate planning. So, you're in a good position here. I had established an estate planning trust for myself years ago, and then I got involved with dinar, and then Bob and I crossed paths, and when I had an opportunity to look at that trust, I just shifted everything right over to that. I said, okay, he had dozens of things I didn't even think of, and I've been around. So this trust was specifically designed for dinarians. It's an estate planning trust. It provides asset protection and all of the above, but it was also designed for dinarians. And one best example of that would be the gifting subtrust, which allows you to gift currencies to family and friends and manage the post-RV proceeds. So there's a lot that this trust offers that just isn't out there I've been doing this for a long time and I haven't seen anything come close.
Wow. Well, that's one last question, Jim. Have you heard of anybody else that has actually exchanged their 30 Iraqi dinar currency since this thing has been in play?
Yes, I have, but I haven't confirmed what they're telling me. I have no reason not to believe them because of who they were, and I can count them on one hand, but I haven't confirmed what they've told me.
Well, very good. Jim, thank you so very, very much. And you guys are going to be extremely busy when this thing happens. And so bless you and thank you.
We're extremely busy now. Certainly. Yes, sir. Bye-bye now.
All righty. Bye.
And thank you for your call. Okay, our next call is area code. I can't remember if I spoke to, is it 210? That's area code 210. Go ahead. 210, are you there?
Oh, yeah, that's me. I talked to you just a few minutes ago. You got me already.
Okay, I apologize. I'm sorry. These numbers are popping in and out, and the thing is moving around, so I apologize, sir. Bye-bye. Next caller, let's try this. Area code 732. That's 732. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Jim. I thought maybe you might know. When I look at my Iraqi dinar notes, I don't see a year on that. Is that supposed to be like that? Like it doesn't say 2004 or whatever, the year. Do they have years?
I know. No, it's funny. Mine don't have years either.
Oh, okay. That's what I needed to know.
Now,
all right, it must be like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. You know what? Now that you told me that, now I'm going to go pull all mine out and take a look at them, because every time someone's mentioned something about the currency, it's an unusual currency. It's so different from the U.S. dollar. You don't always notice things, but now I'm going to go back and look at them.
Well, I only mention it now because the other gentleman said the old ones might not be taken, and then, so I thought maybe if there's a year on there, we should know what year it is, what's old, what's new. All right, well, as long as I find out somebody like you, somebody else has the same thing, then maybe they're all like that. If anybody else wants to come in and mention, please do. Thank you, Jim.
Sure. All right, bye-bye now.
Bye.
The next caller is area code, let's see, area code 301. That's 301. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim. It's Larry from Maryland. I actually had a few questions. To start, my understanding right now, Iraq is having a very difficult time selling anywhere close to what they normally sell for oil. Would that have any bearing, or that's just an anomaly to get past?
I don't think that would have a bearing. The value of the currency is based on their known natural resources, not necessarily their quarterly sales. So it's rich in natural resources. It's rich in oil. And as a matter of fact, Iraq has some of the cleanest oil available, meaning it does not require a lot of refining. So it's actually an oil that's in demand. So I don't think the vicissitudes of quarterly sales is going to be a factor at all. The factor is going to be what's in the ground and how much of that can they sell. And the answer to that is good news on both counts for us.
Okay. And then you mentioned that, I guess, our government's holding trillions of dollars. What about the amount that we all personally, is that amount substantial where that would also encourage President Trump to make sure this happens? Are we substantial like that, or where would we sit with?
Could you ask that question? Ask that question again.
Okay. So personally, you have apparently governments are holding dinars, but then we all personally, obviously, with this weekly listening, we have dinars. We hold dinars personally. I'm assuming that's going to get taxed once the revaluation happens at a fairly substantial amount. Does that add up to a huge amount that would encourage President Trump to make sure this happens, or are we a relatively small portion compared to the $4 trillion that the government holds?
Right. Well, there used to be initially some debate about whether this would be taxed as cap gain or ordinary income. According to our attorney and the documentation that he sent me, we're looking at this being taxed as ordinary income. So it would be very unwise for us to assume that there's no tax. And what we will do the moment this thing hits is the tax information available to us will be on our website and will be made available to everyone so that they know what the issue is. The other issue with taxes is the timing of the reinstitution. If the reinstitution happens, say, in the first month, the other issue is the tax is due quarterly, not just at the end of the year like, your ordinary income. So if a reinstitution were to happen hypothetically in the first month of a given quarter, you have, close to 90 days before you actually have to pay the tax, which gives you time to do the exchange of the currency, have the liquidity from the bank, etc. But what happens if the dinar or whatever currency we happen to be talking about were to reinstitute in the last month or maybe the last few weeks of a quarter? Well, we might have a problem because taxes would be due on the 15th day of the first month of the next quarter, which would be just a couple of weeks away. So you'd have to go to the bank, negotiate your exchange, and make sure that you had sufficient liquidity to pay the tax. So that's something that we're paying close attention to, but we have to literally wait for the event in order to know, how much time we have. But the taxes will be due, in our view, as ordinary income on a quarterly basis.
And then just kind of as amusing, if a lot of powerful people are holding this along with the president, would that suggest that things may be more favorable and we would ride that same, the rate the same for everybody?
Well,
I mean, we won't know until it happens, but...
Well, the suggestion that Trump is a dinarian might in some way help the rest of us. Actually, given what they've tried to do to the guy, could work against us. They tried to sick the IRS on him a couple of times, and he was able to deal with that. So the way I would look at it is, worst case scenario, it's ordinary income, taxed on a quarterly basis. If we have time, certainly our firm will do everything they can to go to the IRS and get an absolute definitive on what the tax is and when it would be due. But failing that, you got to protect yourself, because if you don't pay the tax in a timely fashion, and it's a 55%, or 40, nearly half of the money, what's the penalty? 100% penalty wipes you out. So you don't want to screw around with the IRS. You just don't. If they're entitled to half, then and that bothers you, buy more currency.
Right. Then the other question I had regarding the trust, you've mentioned charitable remainder as an option, and then the gift trust. Do those, if those are created, do they stay inside of the trust underneath the master trust?
Okay.
Or do they become separate?
The gift subtrust is one of the subtrusts that's available with our initial package. If individuals are not gifting currencies to family and friends in situations where they feel they need to control the post-RV proceeds, then they won't be establishing the gift subtrust. The charitable trust is one that we suggest people set up in order to substantially reduce their tax liability. So that would be that's a separate trust, charitable remainder trust.
Okay.
That's a separate trust that you would set up. Now, if individuals know now, it's difficult for individuals to contact us and say, I'd like to set up a charitable remainder trust and leave the following to these following charitable organizations pre-RV. Most people understandably say, well, I want to wait till the dinar reinstitutes so I have a general idea how much money I have and that it makes sense to establish a charitable remainder trust. As long as you establish that trust and transfer the money to that trust before the tax is due, then you've reduced your taxable liability. So there are trusts that allow you to reduce your taxable income by the gift, and there are trusts that you can receive a spin-off income from and not have to pay taxes on it. So as soon as the dinar hits the 4X, we will be shifting gears immediately into discussions of those types of trusts.
So is it still, say the dinar revalues June 29, not July 2nd. Does that give us time to create a charitable, or we just let the accountants work that out?
That timing is bad. It's not. No,
yeah.
I mean, if you're going at warp speed, you might be able to do it, but it just can't get beat. you just gave me an example of the absolute worst case scenario for that.
Right.
So we won't be able to do that.
Deal
we
with
will
it
do everything
the best you can, right?
Exactly. We will do everything we can to accomplish your objectives, inclusive of paying the least amount of taxes. But one thing we're hamstrung by is the date of the reinstitution and evaluation. We don't control that, and that, to some degree, is going to determine what we can and cannot do from a tax standpoint.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now. Okay. Our next caller is, let me see who I haven't talked to here. 832. That's 832. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, Jim. This is Ray here in Houston, Texas, a long-time listener, but haven't gotten your trust yet, as I should, to be covered. I have a few questions. One of my questions is this. Does your trust also provide where my board will be able to create a
did you set your board?
Would I have to have a board in this trust?
When you say a board, no.
Oh, okay.
You're establishing this trust as an individual. You have created the trust, and you're the beneficiary of the trust.
Okay. And will the trust provide a income? Like if I wanted a salary, if I wanted to produce a salary for myself doing.
I'm sure you could establish it that way. I don't know why you would pay yourself a salary, because inclusive in the trust would be the currencies that you hold, which you subsequently exchanged for the USD, which you subsequently invested. So, you have the income generated. Now, there are situations where you could establish trusts that pay you a salary, but it would kind of be redundant to do that here, because as the settler and primary beneficiary of the trust, all of the income generated from the investments is yours.
Okay. All right, but wouldn't that be better if I provide myself a salary so I wouldn't be just dipping into the account and I have security knowing that I have a set salary, knowing that this is the amount that's coming in every month?
Well, I guess you could do that, but again, let's say hypothetically you have 1 million dinar, and let's say it revalues at the rate it went into the program rate at 3.25. So you're looking at 3.25 million. You're going to net after taxes, assuming ordinary income, somewhere in the area of, conservatively 1.75 million. Investing that at 3%, you're making 50 or 60 grand a year in interest. I don't know why you'd pay yourself a salary.
Okay, would that come to me? Do I have a decision or choice for that to come yearly or quarterly?
The money would accrue in the trust, and you could take it. You could take it weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, any way you wanted to. If the interest is accruing in the trust, you could just have your trustee say, "I want an automatic monthly transfer to my personal amount. I'm earning $100,000 a year. Pay me, $5,000 a month. I'll let it. So each year, you can increase your income because the interest that you didn't take, that would continue to accrue, would generate more income in the following years. So you could work that out any way you wanted to.
Okay, when you say trustee, would that be someone that I will find, or would that be yourself preparing the trust?
Whomever you want to. That's your choice.
Okay. All right. I got you. All right. Jim, in this investment, how strongly do you feel about the Vietnamese dong? Because I feel like there's a lot of wishy-washiness about the dong. Sometimes they're in, sometimes they're out. And I'm just kind of feeling wavery about the dong a little bit. What is your strong feeling about the dong, honestly speaking?
Well, my strong feeling, of course, is for the Iraqi dinar, but the dong is Vietnam has done a lot over the years, but because they're still sort of under the umbrella of China and they're kind of closed, people aren't paying too much attention to what's going on there. But I think when the Iraqi dinar hits the Forex, I think there's a number of countries that are in line that are going to go ahead and pull the trigger, and I think Vietnam is going to be one of them. There's a lot's been going on in Vietnam, but again, it's under the Chinese umbrella. But when their currency hits the Forex, China's not going to have quite the control that they have now.
That's what. Right. That's what I was going to ask you. By Donald Trump going over there to China, I mean, do you think that he has some influence in regards to? Because I know at one time he was talking about, I think in 2020, about Vietnamese being a manipulator, a currency manipulator. But have they gotten that under control first, so that therefore they would be able to revalue their currency? And along with that, I know that they've been lowballing their currency, so therefore they can get a better deal at the import-export.
Well, the other issue is the revaluation of their currency is good for their country. So it seems to me that the Chinese there may be some loss of control from the standpoint of China, but there's also a greater benefit for trade because now the country can afford to do a lot more than it was doing before. So it's kind of a mixed bag for China. I kind of feel that China's in a difficult situation because I think the world, generally speaking, and certainly international currencies, are going in a little bit of a different direction. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how China. I don't think China likes what's going on. Let me put it that way, and that's good for us.
yeah, absolutely. All right. So, do you think that they will go shortly, like months, or would they go possibly at the same time? From what I'm hearing, they're all in the same basket anyhow.
Well, as I said early in the call, I have a feeling that the Iraqi dinar is going to reinstitute before the 4th of July, and I think Trump has something to do with that. If that happens, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these other countries would reinstitute before the end of this calendar year, and Vietnam would be in that short list. By the way, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Ray, R-A-Y, out of Houston.
Ray. Okay. Yes, sir. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Now, is there any way possibly is that if? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jim.
I was going to say I was going to give you a call and get your more information. I'll just send you our initial package. You can review it and then just call me if you have any questions. All right. Well,
absolutely.
I've got you. I'm going to use the number that's right here on the screen. It starts with 832, correct?
That is correct. Yes, I'd love to hear from you.
All right. Okay, I will call you right after this call, sir.
All right. Thank you, Jim. All right. Bye.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay.
Right,
our next caller is, I think I have one more. Let's see. That's area code 323. That's 323.
Hello, Jim.
Yes.
Hello, Jim. It's Sebastian.
I'm here
from Los Angeles, California.
Yes, sir.
I think it's always nice to hear your conference call. Thank you so very much.
Well, thank you for that.
And we are happy that you're back because we couldn't hear your conference for some few weeks. Anyway, I'm here.
I don't know what that. That wasn't my fault.
I know. We are so glad to hear because honestly, other people who give information, I don't trust it. They say a lot of things that really don't make sense. Anyway, to me, I think to all of us, you're the best source of information, I think, and thank God you are here.
Well, thanks very much. I appreciate those kind words.
Thank you so much, yeah. Before I forget, I noticed the last conference last week, it was not posted on YouTube. And the reason I asked, because sometimes I can't hear it, all of it, and then when it's reposted on YouTube, then I hear everything. So hopefully they place it on.
Yeah, I hope so too. As a matter of fact, when I got on this call and I hit record, I didn't get the usual prompt that I usually get, and I tried it 3 or 4 times, and for some reason, I don't know. I actually don't know whether this call is being recorded, which frankly upsets me, but there's nothing I can do. I just have to proceed with the call. We happen to have a lot of people on the call, and a lot of people know who we are. They know we exist, and so if they're paying attention and following and seeing how close we're really getting, I'm hoping that they will contact us on their own, to get our initial no obligation package. If this call is not being recorded, I'm going to see if I can figure out what happened, and if so, I'm just going to get right back on and redo the call. There won't be any Q&A, but I'll just redo the call so that people can listen to it. But I appreciate very much your kind words, and I think this thing is rounding the final turn. I really do.
Thank you so much. I hope these things get to the end, and that's going to be great. One question, I would like to ask you the difference for the gifting sub-trust, the difference to get the EIN number from IRS, prior RB and the post RB. What's the difference in that?
Yes. Okay. You need an EIN number for the master trust, which basically manages the entire package, with one exception, and that is the gift subtrust. The reason you need a separate EIN number for the gift subtrust is because the gift subtrust has a different trustee. You will be the trustee of the gift subtrust, not the individual that you name for the rest of the package. So because there's a different trustee, it needs a separate EIN number. So let me explain that for people that don't have the gift subtrust. You will have an EIN number for the package, and if you establish the gift subtrust, you will also need an EIN number for the gift subtrust as well. Now, you don't necessarily have to get that stuff pre-RV, but we strongly suggest you get those EIN numbers as soon as possible, because you're going to have enough to do once these currencies hit the Forex.
I see. I wanted to know the difference. That's great. So again, thank you so much. There is a lot of questions I have, but here the time is now. I wish I could have a call private with you. So there's a lot of questions.
Well, I've got your phone number. Let me write your phone number down here.
Please. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
I will. Yes. Hold on one sec. 6153. And Sebastian Vasquez?
Yes, correct.
Okay. I will give you a call this afternoon. I'm going to call Ray, and then I'm going to call you, all right? And the number on the screen is the number I'm going to call. Okay?
Yes, very good. Thank you so much again. No, I don't have words to thank you enough. Thank you so much.
That's por nada, señor.
Thank you. De nada. Muy gracias. Adiós. Bye-bye.
Adiós. Well, Sebastian was our last caller for this afternoon. Again, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this call. The things we've discussed are of interest. I strongly suggest you contact us to get our initial no obligation package. You're not obligated by doing so. We'll be happy to send the package out to you. You can review the package, contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you. You contact us by email, which is trusts with an S, unlimited, LLC @gmail.com, and we will get a package out to you just as quickly as we can. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great week. I'm hoping that this call was recorded. As a matter of fact, I'm going to